Hello, good day, my glorious families. I welcome you to today's chapter of the day. So today's chapter is in the book of Job, chapter 6. We started a series on the book of Job for 6 days now. And I believe some of you are joining us while some are not aware. So if it's your first time, I say welcome to this family TV, and this time around, we just want to discover more in the book of Job. We want to discover more about the book of Job, more than what we have been taught or what we have been told or what we have read before. His words, yeah, they are always new every morning. Like every time you open, you have another message. So just in case you have never taken your time to study the book of Job, I think this is the right time. Like sometimes some people will say Bible is boring. I understand, maybe because you've been reading alone. So now it's time for you to read together with me or with us on this channel. So I would like you to grab your Bible if you can, or if you're not, maybe you're on the move, just listen attentively to this video and try to understand what I'm trying to talk about. And I'm going to put it in my own, just the way the Spirit drops this in me. I will read and explain what I understand, and you should try and also pen down something for me to read, because I want us to learn from each other. So in the book of Job, we all understand that Job went through a lot of problems, a lot of tribulations. He lost his possessions. He lost all he had. He lost all of his children. He lost all of his possessions, everything from A through Z. And then he was left empty. As if that was not enough, the devil inflicted him again with sicknesses, with boils all over his body, boils all over his body, everything, all on this young man, on this same man. And he used to, the God regarded him as a very righteous man, and a man that he loves so much, because he's a very, very, very careful and righteous man. He fears God to the point that he doesn't want to commit a little sin. So even when he doesn't commit sin, he will offer sacrifices to cleanse his sins. Whether there is sins or not, he just want to appeal to God. Anyway, that was in the old time, not now that, Jesus Christ has saved us and his blood has wiped everything off. But in those days, they do a lot of work. They do a lot of sacrifices just to appease God. Excuse me. So let's dive into it. So Job chapter 6. So after he had faced all of these problems, his two friends came visiting him. I mean, three friends. That was in the from the chapter 1. His friends came, and then Job didn't talk, didn't say anything. He mourned for 7 days. He didn't say a word. He was just mourning in silence. So when his friends, the three friends, came around, they saw him in a great sadness, in sorrow. They didn't know where to start from, so they were just watching. They just kept looking at him, staring at him, and they just kept all their opinions to themselves. But at a point, after 7 days, of course, somebody had to break the silence, and that was after Eliphaz. Eliphaz broke the silence after Job had spoken. Job spoke in Job. Let me see. Job spoke in, I think, chapter 2. Okay, chapter 3. Job opening speech. Job spoke in chapter 3. So in chapter 4, his friend broke the silence. One of his friends. First series of speeches, Eliphaz was the first person. That's one of the three friends that spoke to him, and they all didn't know where to start from, but later they spoke. So Eliphaz has been talking from chapter 4, and then chapter 5, he was still the one that talked. So in chapter 4, I didn't like what he said. I was not okay with his speech. But in chapter 5, oh my gosh, I felt so, like from the beginning, I didn't like it. I wasn't liking it, because it was as if he was blaming Job, and then blah, 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 blah. He was trying to tell Job, you're not that righteous. You should not see yourself as a righteous man. And he was also pointing fingers at Job, that all this happened to you because you have done something wrong to God. And in the real sense, Job did nothing. He was found guiltless, but because the devil just incited all this evil, and God, who just tried to see that, okay, if I allow the devil to do this to him, what will he do? Will he curse me for real? And thankfully, he didn't curse God. But guess what? He cursed himself. He cursed himself. He cursed the day he was born. And I want us to understand one thing, that these are what the devil wants us to do. He wants us to curse ourselves, or we curse God instead. So all this, why me? Oh, I regret myself. I regret my life. All of these things, they are all what the devil wants. So it's like we are giving the devil ego, more reason to be happy. So I think the best thing, I don't know how easy it's going to be because we have to be practical. But seriously, if God can help us and give us the grace, whenever things don't go our way, whenever life is doing something funny, let's remember that this is not God's wish. His wish, his love for us remains. His wish for us is for us to be fine, to be happy, to be never to be sad. So God is not the one inciting all this evil. Just take note of that. So in Job chapter 6, now Job replies Eliphaz. But I want you to go read chapter 5. I love what Eliphaz said from verses 8 through the last verse, which is 27. It was marvelous, and it's a life lesson to every one of us. I studied that part in my Bible. I had to roll up all of those parts because they are so beautiful. I would like you to visit the previous video where we analyze that part. I'm sorry this video will be more than 10 minutes. I'm already on 6 minutes. So let's read what Job said to Eliphaz in chapter 6. I'm sorry, I have some code, a little bit of code. Then Job answered, if only my grief could be weighed and my devastation placed with it on the scales, for then it would outweigh the sand of the seas. Sand of the seas. That is why my words are rash. So he acknowledged that it was rash because Job spoke so badly that when I was reading it, I couldn't read it to myself. Like I was saying, he said. I couldn't say it the way I saw it in the Bible because those were too much for me to even confess. Like read out. It was too much. So he says, surely the arrows of the Almighty have pierced him. I don't want to say pierce me. I regret it. I reject it. Arrows of the Almighty will not pierce me. It is too much when God allows such for somebody. That is why I always say, Father, please, do not tempt me with do not test me with what is beyond me, because God does not tempt us, but God can put our faith through test. So God could test you, but God will never tempt you. So whenever you face any temptation, that is not from God. That's from the devil. And the Bible has said that you have the power to withstand it. You have been given everything it takes to withstand your temptation. He tempted Jesus. So if he tempted Jesus, who are you? He would tempt you. But God can test your faith by allowing the temptation to work on you and then see what you want to do. That is why our journey of faith is a gradual process. So God will not permit it if you're still very young or very a baby in faith. Okay, so because people grow in faith, we grow in faith. It's not by age. An 80-year-old man can be a baby in faith. So faith is a journey. So God will not permit any temptation, because God can permit the devil. Excuse me. God can permit the devil because it was God that permitted Satan to tempt Job. But God will never tempt you. But let's just take note that whenever that temptation comes, God has empowered us, especially after Jesus came. We have all it takes to stand against it. And the Bible said when you fall into it, it is because of your own desire, your flesh, that you refuse to walk on. So it is your fault. It is not heaven's fault. So try and let us flee from temptations. Wherever we will be tempted, let's run away from the places we will be tempted, and let's run away from the people that will tempt us. If you are a Christian and you are visiting a club where stripping are happening, you should know that someday you will be a sex addict. So that is nobody's fault. You chose to be in the midst where your faith will be tempted and where it will be completely destroyed. So you have to choose the right place to be and the right people to work with. So chapter 4 says, surely the arrows of the Almighty have pierced him. Okay, not me. So he said, his spirit drinks their poison. God's terrors are arrayed against him. Does a white donkey bray over fresh grass, or an ox low over his fodder? Excuse me, I'm sorry. Is bland food eaten without salt? Is there flavor in an egg white? I refuse to touch them. They are like contaminated food. Verse 8. If only my request would be granted, and God would provide what I hope for, what he would decide to that he would decide to crush me, to unleash his power and cast me off, it would still bring me comfort, and I will leap for joy in unrelenting pain, that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. Well, Job, you know, in all sincerity, Job never knew the devil did this. Job never knew the devil incited this. Job thought that God just decided to destroy him. And the reason he was lamenting and questioning God is that, God, what is the reason? What have I done wrong? I have always followed your commandment. In fact, I have always offered offerings of apology, offerings of pleasing. I've always appeased you, even when I did not offend, or even when I thought there is offense. So I have always been very diligent in making sure I did not offend you. So why would you all of a sudden just want to destroy me for everything? You raise me up and then you want to destroy me. Why did you desire that? So that is why the Bible established that the word of God, or this book of the Bible, is written. Every story is written for us to learn from. So now that we know about the book of Job, we now understand that when evil happens, it is not from God. It is the devil, Satan, that is inciting those evil. Yes, God is aware because he knows every bit of things happening around us. But guess what? He is not wishing for that. He is telling it. That's why I want us to study the book of Job, because that was where I got an answer that when those things happen, we put what God is expecting us to do something. He wants us to command the devil to stay in his place. He wants us to, he said we have the power to command what we want. Yes, it has happened. So what do you want? That is God for you. Yes, my son, you are crying. What do you want? Not just, oh, Father, Father. Then you are nagging. You have not said a word. He said, he said in everything, he said, do not be anxious for anything, but in everything with supplications and thanksgiving, with supplications and thanksgiving, thanksgiving. Yes, come to my, he said you should come to the place of prayer and then present your request, that we should make our request known. Like we should explain what we want. So it's not just we nagging and say, God, why me? God, why does it happen to me? Why did it have to be me? And remember, why me is a selfish statement. Why me means that you're saying it shouldn't have been me. It should have been my best friend. It shouldn't have been me. It should have been my husband. No, it shouldn't have been anyone. It shouldn't have been anyone. No one deserves to go through pain. No one deserves to be sad. No one deserves to lose a loved ones. But because the devil or Satan is inciting evil, and it happens because God believes we have power and we are meant to use that power. So, but in some cases, like I said in my previous video, when we do what we should do and still things don't go our way, we can still pray. I mean, we can... sometimes when prayer seems to be not working, we have to switch to praise worship. And if that still did not work, that means that thing you want is either God is saying no, and if God says no, let's say a loved one is gone and God is saying no to the rising of that person, just know that God wants that person to come and rest at home. But if that is not the reason, then that means we have to intensify. But there is always reason God will say no, which we have to find out, because it is not everything we will know, but we can inquire from God, and God can show us vision to clarify all of these things. I don't know if I'm talking too much, but let's read on. I'm not saying anything again. I just want to read. I'm sorry. It will still bring me comfort, and I will leap for joy in unrelenting pain, that I have not denied the words of the Holy One. What strength do I have that I should continue to hope? What is my future? And I should be that I should be patient? Is my strength that of stone, or my flesh made of bronze? Of course, because his blood that runs through his veins. Did I just say I will not talk again? I have talked again, I'm sorry. Verse 13, since I cannot help myself, the hope for success has been banished from me. A despairing man should receive loyalty from his friends, even if he abandons the fear of the Almighty. My brothers are treacherous. So he's trying to tell Eliphaz now that a despairing man should receive loyalty from his friends, even if he abandons the fear of the Almighty. So he's trying to tell his friend that you told me that it's because I abandoned the fear of the Almighty. You told me it's because I offend God. That was why God is doing this to me. Even though I have done that, he is my friend. God is my friend. Let him still have mercy on me, which is true. He's right. My brothers are as treacherous as a wadi, as seasonal streams that overflow and become darkened because of ice, and the snow melts into them. The wadis evaporate in water weather. They disappear from their channels in hot weather. Caravans turn away from their route, go up into the desert and perish. The caravans of Tema look for these streams. The traveling merchants of Sheba hope for them. They are ashamed because they have been confident in finding water. When they arrive there, they are disappointed. So this is what you have now become to me. When you see something dreadful, you are afraid. Have I ever said, give me something, or pay a bribe for me for your wealth, or deliver me from the enemy's hand, or redeem me from the hand of the ruthless? Verse 24, teach me and I will be silent. Help me understand what I did wrong. So he's questioning his friend. How painful honest words can be. But what does your rebuke prove? Do you think that you can disprove my words, or that a despairing man's words are mere wind? No doubt you would cast lots for a fatherless child and negotiate a price to sell your friend. But now, please look at me. I will not lie to your face. Reconsider. Don't be unjust. Reconsider. My righteousness is still the issue. Is there injustice on my tongue, or can my palate not taste disaster? So that is Job now questioning his friend, because honestly speaking, if you had read from the beginning and saw how the friend challenged, through those words from the beginning, those words were too harsh for somebody like Job to contain. I couldn't have thought of that. Like, I personally I wouldn't have known what to say, because Job was going through too much. If you have to think about it, it was too much. It is easier said than done. Whoever is in that shoe knows how it pinches. So I will say that we should mind how if we don't have much, if we don't have something more consoling to tell a grieving person, be quiet. Keep your opinion to yourself. But anyway, thank God Eliphaz said what he said, because I was able to pick a lot from chapter 5, verses 8 through 27, which I will urge you to also read. Thank you for joining me. I'm sorry this is lengthy. I needed to say what I gotta say, so that this will not just look like we are reading, because we are actually studying. I love you all, and I'll see you again in my next video. Meanwhile, let me prepare you. Job replied to Eliphaz, continue in chapter 7, and we will get to see if if Eliphaz was able to respond better